The first 4 months of the war alone cost Britain and France 1 million casualties. The stalemate in the trenches compelled Churchill to ask Asquith, "Are there not other alternatives than sending our armies to chew barbed wire in Flanders?" With no satisfactory answer forthcoming, Churchill began to dream. His desire to excel at military strategy was well known, and either openly mocked or treated with polite condescension by the military caste. He now accepted that his previous idea of invading and occupying Germany via a naval assault from the Baltic Sea was unrealistic, but he had a new plan. He began to lobby cabinet colleagues for a Navy-led drive several hundred miles to the east. The plan was simple and simplistic. The Navy would, eel-like, wriggle its way through the Dardanelles, the narrow and strategically vital 38-mile strait that connects the Mediterranean to the Sea of Marmara, the Bosporus, and the Black Sea, the geographical boundary between Asia and Europe. They would then capture Constantinople. This would force the Ottomans out of the war, which they had entered only reluctantly in October 1914. A version of this plan had been considered prior to the Ottomans' decision to join the Central Powers. The new version, replete with Churchillian flourishes, sounded better. Victories on maps are just as unreliable as rehearsal room laughter before the show opens. Despite some opposition from military leaders, the cabinet backed the plan. The opening salvos would target Gallipoli. Churchill had no illusions but that the price to be paid in taking Gallipoli would no doubt be heavy. But he argued that the gains would far outweigh the sacrifice of troops. In his opinion, 50,000 soldiers and his beloved sea lions would see off the Turkish menace. The War Office bluntly refused to dispatch the soldiers. Churchill sent in the warships regardless, and battle, i.e., long-distance bombardment, commenced on 19 February 1915. The weather was bad, the Turks were ready, and Entente minesweepers were endlessly shelled by Ottoman artillery. The British naval commanders counselled a rapid pullback. Churchill insisted they continue. The chief operational commander, Admiral Sackville-Carden, shocked by Churchill's irrational stubbornness, had a nervous breakdown. It took a month for British and French battleships to enter the straits. Ottoman mines sank 3 ships and damaged 5 others. Half the fleet was now out of action. Carden's replacement did not seek permission from London. He ordered a withdrawal and informed Churchill he would wait for military reinforcements. Whatever advantage had been imagined was now impossible. When the troops did arrive, a whole month later, consisting disproportionately of cannon fodder from Australia and New Zealand, mustered in the Anzac, they were pinned down on the beaches. The Turkish army had used the 4 weeks to prepare an almost impregnable defense, and the Ottoman soldiers fought fiercely. The Entente suffered serious losses. 45,000 soldiers dead. Almost 10,000 were Anzac. and just under 2,000 Indians. The Turkish figures were higher, 65,000 corpses to be buried, yet the Entente finally withdrew in January 1916. The Battle of Gallipoli, the one major initiative undertaken by Churchill throughout the war, ended as a humiliating defeat, a disaster that was never forgotten. It revealed that avoiding the barbed wire in Flanders by opting for new battlefronts did not work either. A setback of such magnitude meant that heads had to roll. Asquith was replaced by Lloyd George, and before joining a coalition government, the Tories demanded that Churchill be sacked. In high dudgeon, he loped off to participate in the war for a few months as a soldier. On his return, he was offered a lowly job as Minister for Munitions. He displayed no regret about Gallipoli, despite the disaster haunting him for the rest of his political life. Hecklers at political meetings for years after would shout, "Have you forgotten the Dardanelles?" His response, "The Dardanelles might have saved millions of lives. Don't imagine I am running away from the Dardanelles. I glory in it." This was sheer bravado. The ghosts of Gallipoli never disappeared. Churchill thought of them again on the eve of D-Day in the Second World War, scared at the thought that the Normandy landing might be a repeat performance, not such a far-fetched thought at the time. It is difficult to disagree with the verdict on Gallipoli pronounced by Roy Jenkins. Churchill's later summing up was that the concept was overwhelmingly right. Had he been Prime Minister, he would have won a great victory, substantially shortened the war, and saved many hundreds of thousands of lives. But it is difficult to find a serious military historian who agrees. The third of Churchill's mistakes was to get himself into a position in which everyone is out of step but Winston. All were on his side at some stage, but eventually everyone let him down. This is always a position in which some self doubt is called for, but self doubt was never one of Churchill's attributes.